Home is where connections are made, memories are formed, and ideas are born. And no one knows home better than NFM. Thanks for tuning in to I Am Home, the podcast that goes deeper than trends and dives into what it means to make your house a home.
Welcome back to another episode of the I Am Home podcast. It's Tyler Wisecup here recording from NFM HQ. Unfortunately, we don't have Hillary today, but we do have our microphone marvel, Becca Sudbeck, with us.
Hi, Tyler.
Hi, Becca. In May, for us in NFM world, means Berkshire Hathaway's annual meeting. So we're running with a little bit of an investment theme on the podcast and talking about investments for your home. And today's topic specifically is in indoor recreation. So I'm really excited about this one. We've got an incredible expert. He's going to be joining us in a second. But before we get to that, let me tell you why we're even doing this podcast. And that's because NFM is more than just your everything home store. We're in the business of improving lifestyles because your home life should be your best life. And you can learn more about that on nfm.com. But let me introduce our expert today. We're happy to have him. Hello, Will Chapman.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi, Will. Will is joining us. He's an NFM expert here. He's hugely passionate about this topic of indoor recreation. He's coming to us from the category analyst team, where he works in this area often. He prides himself on being a true subject matter expert on the topic, even during his previous role with NFM as a salesperson. He has been a delivery driver. He's worked in facility operations. He's also been in music production. He seems like a Renaissance man, really. Will, would you describe yourself that way?
Just a little bit. I mean, you got to kind of experience a lot, kind of see what you enjoy in life.
Which is a perfect segue to the topic today of indoor recreation, because I think that's all about, like, how do you enjoy your space at home? And so I'm kind of curious, where did your passion for this topic of indoor recreation come from, or where did it start?
Yeah, I mean, you could kind of go back all the way to growing up where, my friend's house, and then even at my house, I had a little bit of a cheaper one, but, we grew up with a pool table. Then if you ever go to restaurants and they had pinball machines, I was always asking for quarters so that I could go play.
Yeah.
It's just one that, it's just always fun. And, no matter how old you are, you can enjoy them.
Yeah.
So indoor recreation includes like video games and like the old school ones, like pinball and arcade games?
Yeah, I would
Okay.
include anywhere from pinball, pool, shuffleboard,
Okay.
and kind of just all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely my follow-up was like, let's educate the audience on what we're exactly talking about, because indoor recreation kind of sounds a little bit like a formal term, but a lot of it is like, the game room that you think of with your cool friends, the house that you wanted to go to kind of have the sleepovers because they had all that kind of cool stuff in the basement or wherever they kind of had it set up, whether it was like we're talking about pinball machines. Some of them had arcades back in the day. If you're really lucky, you would have a friend like that. Pool tables, ping pong tables, anything else that you would add to that list?
I know shuffleboard's been getting a little more popular. Then if you really want to get into the specialty, like you got snooker, poker tables,
Yes.
dart boards, dart cabinets, just kind of depend on what you enjoy.
Yeah. Foosball tables.
Oh yeah.
And
What about air hockey?
did we hit air hockey? Love air hockey.
Those are very popular here.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Can we talk a little bit about, in the context of like the different kinds of products that people may think about when they're thinking about indoor recreation? One of the things that you and I were talking about before we hopped onto the mic was the different kinds of finishes and styles a little bit as well. I know that we carry slate top versus wood, for example.
Yeah.
Can you kind of expand a little bit on like what people may be thinking about when it comes to the different kinds of products that you may be looking for if you're interested in investing in indoor recreation for your home?
Yeah. As far as what we carry, when you really want to look at like the pool tables, primarily all we sell is slate, and that's all that I usually recommend. Just because slate, that's going to be more of that true piece that, is that true investment for your house. It's going to last, where a lot of times, as long as you don't do anything too crazy with it, you're going to buy
Sledgehammer
it.
to it is essentially is like what we're talking to.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't suggest that. But as long as you don't do that, you could pass that on to your children easily, whichever one you deem is gets it. But
Your favorite.
Or the one who can carry it, because those things are pretty heavy.
True.
yeah.
I feel like those things are pretty permanent once you put them in your house.
Yeah. But when you look at wood ones, like they're a great temporary piece. If like
Yeah.
your children are gonna, you think they're gonna ruin it, that might be the best one to go for, just because that one will be that good one. As long as they're grown up, it'll be there, but it does have a tendency to warp or break a little bit easier.
Right.
But especially when you want to think about shuffleboard tables, like, do you want a one piece or a two piece? Which most people are all going to look at getting two pieces, because that's the easiest way to get it into your house, unless if you have,
especially into a basement, I feel like.
Oh,
where
yeah.
There's like weird like turns and
Yeah.
stuff with stairways.
Sometimes
standard
stairways
ones,
a little too narrow.
Yeah. Or
all
like,
that kind of stuff.
I feel like sometimes there's not clearance to turn it around a corner.
Right.
that's a
I may
little
have
hard to get 9
Been
feet.
experienced that a few times.
Speaking from experience.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, in relation to this theme of home investments, can we back up for a second and kind of explain to people why would indoor recreation be something worth investing within your home?
Yeah, it's such a great and kind of easy way to really express yourself, make your home homey, make it your true home, to where you can just go take time to either have a great time with friends and family, or just sit back and relax and just kind of have a good night, or stuff like that, where it just really customizes it for you and
Yeah.
gives you great experiences that you can always remember and look back at.
Yeah. I mean, we already talked about like the cool friend's house. So,
Yeah.
so there's that. I also think a little bit too about like the health benefits of being able to kind of like get up and move around in your home
Oh,
instead of
yeah.
being just planted in front of the TV, or if you're lucky enough to have kind of a theater area in your home. That stuff is cool too, but being able to kind of like get up and have some physical activity when you're in your relaxation theme. We all know the dangers of a lot of us sitting at an office all
Yeah.
day. And so being able to kind of have leisure time in your home, huge health benefits there, I would say, as well.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree.
Yeah. And like mental well-being too.
Mhm.
I think that's tied to health for sure, but also like you were talking about, the social benefits of being able to kind of spend time with people that you enjoy. Doing something physical, I think, is another area that I would probably say makes it worth the investment.
Oh yeah, and laughter is the best medicine, so you could have a lot of great times and great laughs around the tables.
Good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So let's get into maybe the how-to portion of this episode, where we're kind of helping people build a game room, or at least kind of carving out space within their home that makes sense for this kind of stuff. How would you help somebody who is just starting their journey on helping to get them set up with indoor recreation that fits what they're looking for? Where do you start?
Yeah, big thing would be, what room are you putting it in? Are you dedicating that whole room to just kind of being a game room, lounge? What type of area? What are your key essentials you're going to want in there? Are you going to want a TV and a couch also? Are you just going to want game room stuff? And then also, how big is that space? Because a big thing with, one of the most popular pieces, a pool table, you are going to need at least 12 by 15 feet for a table. So that gives you plenty of room to play. Otherwise, you're just going to be hitting the wall with the cues, and that will make you more upset, and you will want to play less. And that's coming from personal experience.
Yeah.
So you tried to put a pool table in a smaller area than that?
Yep.
Did you just end up getting smaller pool sticks? Because that's what we did in my old basement.
I did that a little bit, but also just unscrewed them in half.
Yep.
Right. So you're playing with a half stick?
Yeah.
And it's not as fun.
Not as
No,
satisfying.
it's also not as easy. So actually a lot harder. I may have tried that also.
Well, sometimes we have to do what we have to do. If we do enjoy it enough that we find value in it fitting into your home, and you're really insistent, maybe that's a tack that you can take. But probably, if you can, having that additional space. But there are like smaller pool tables, right? If you have like a smaller area,
Yeah, there would be a 7-foot one, which is still a good solid one. But at the end of the day, it only does take down about a foot on each side because you're still,
Gotcha.
regardless, going to need about 3 feet on each side for the cues.
Gotcha. So that pool table, popular item, but you're going to need a lot more space. Something to think about, obviously, is just what space do you have? So that makes complete sense.
Oh, yeah.
And I think there are other options if you have limited space that you may suggest point people in a direction to go. Would you say?
Yeah, depending on the space, if you do have a little bit more narrow, a little bit longer room, though, shuffleboards are always a great option. Just because those, I think you need about 12
Yeah.
feet-ish,
Yeah.
because I believe most of the play fields are just 9 is the standard. But then with that, you don't really need much space on the sides. You could have that right up against a wall. But other than that, there's darts and air hockey. You don't need as much.
Mhm.
Foosball especially takes up the least. It just kind of depends
Yeah.
what you have room for. Then even if you ever want, you could find a vintage pinball machine.
Oh my gosh. We had a foosball table for a portion of my childhood and I loved it. And when I moved out into an apartment, I was like, oh, maybe I'll be able to get it. My mom put it in a garage sale. She sold it. I didn't have a chance to
What?
take it because they weren't using it anymore. And they're just like, well, we're going to get rid of it. They didn't ask me. It's crazy.
How rude.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I mean, parents,
They should have known.
they just don't understand, right? Okay, I digress. The other thing that I think you kind of touched on a little bit when it comes to this area is thinking about like what your interests are. I mean, if you're not into pool, it wouldn't make a lot of sense for you to get a pool table. So
Yeah.
how do you like help people when they're kind of exploring either their interests or looking at the different options that we might have available at NFM?
Big thing with that is really just kind of question yourself. What do you think you would play? And what do you think your family would play? Like, what is going to be the best investment for you and not just a splurge purchase saying, oh, we need something. Really just take the time. I mean, time would be the best thing to think about whenever thinking about these is like really just debating on what's going to be best for you. And also where you guys going to get the most use out of, because at the end of the
Right.
day, pool tables are nice, but there is so many people where at the end of the day, they are more of a non-functional furniture piece because it's just that statement piece in your house, kind of like buying a grand piano, yet you can't play.
Yeah.
They look nice. Like, don't get me wrong, but then that's why that happens sometimes is they just get one that looks nice, fits their house, but it's just not the right thing that will keep them entertained specifically.
Right.
And then also with that too, what styles are you looking for? Do you want a themed one? We're here at NFM. We do have both NCAA and NFL themed felts available that we can, match up with your favorite teams.
Right. So if you're setting up your fan cave, you'd already talked about like having the TV system set up there. I mean, you can be watching the Cowboys and then play on the Cowboys, right? On the felt. I mean, what can life get better? Becca, really?
No, not absolutely not.
Okay. Well, Will, I'm curious if you have any suggestions for must-have elements for a game room, like regardless of space or budget.
Yeah, I mean, one that I personally thought of when it came to me is it would always be nice to either have a fridge or a mini fridge.
Yeah.
And like an area for snacks, depending how far you want to go. If you actually want a full bar piece there, I know those are pretty popular. And then from there, it's just kind of, it's all personal matter after that. Like I know me, I would love all three of a pool table, pinball, and skee ball machine. Those are kind of like my go-to favorites.
That's the dream. Yeah.
But it's kind of like, what do you enjoy? That's where I would lead with that. And then also just extra decor to kind of really make it your own space, like whether you're a person who likes cars or you're wanting to make that fan cave we talked about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the idea of like digging into not only your interests and what you like to play, but like how do you want to set up that space? I think a lot of people can make it like very beautiful and aesthetically pleasing, but some people want it to be like the sports zone
Right.
and the
Yeah.
fun
Functional.
area. Some people want it to be, inspired by their favorite comic book characters or their favorite movies. If you're kind of connecting it using a transitional space or a multifunctional space between recreation and entertainment, visual home theater systems. So considering all those things as a part of your overall plan would be paramount to like going back to the idea of what our podcast is about, right? Making your home life really your best life in this way, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Because, I mean, we spend so much money on a house, we got to have somewhere to go after we get home from work, and we got to be able to enjoy it and not just kind of sit there.
Mm-hmm. I love that sentiment. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about trends. What are you seeing out there today, and what are you excited for in the future?
Yeah, I know I had just discussed with our buyer. She just went to the latest market, the BCA market, specifically for a lot of the indoor rec companies out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Where's that market located? Do you know off the top of your head?
To be honest, I do not remember.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it was in Vegas.
Vegas.
Yeah, it was at the main convention center down there.
That's a good place to have a recreation market.
Oh, yeah. I think at the same time, too, they had like a beer and like bar market and
Cool.
something other at the same time. So it was a pretty fun environment from
Yeah.
what I heard. And with that, she noticed that the trend of gray is kind of phasing out. And as far as trends right now, there's a lot of lighter and darker finishes, natural finishes. And then also bringing, I know for us personally, there's been a lot more dark boards that's going to be trending here that we're bringing in. And then as far as felts go on pool tables, blue has been very popular, more of like a navy and darker blue. Those have been trending. But when it comes to trends for indoor rec, one of the biggest things I've noticed is with those pieces, a lot of them, especially like the kind of more classic style, they're timeless. You don't really chase any trends with them. You get the one that fits your house, that really fits your personality, that you like. And then again, you can just pass that on to your children once they have their own children, or however you want to do with that. But it's not really a piece that you're going to be replacing every couple of years. They last, especially with their vendors, our top vendors, Brunswick and Imperial. They really pride themselves in their quality.
Yeah, I love that. And two, like, I think, some of the materials that we're talking about when it comes to your woods or your slates are neutral enough for us to be able to kind of like mix and match and update those spaces to fit whatever season of life you're in. You may like be growing up, it needs to be a little bit more kid oriented and a little poppier in color and fun, bright, and really it shines that way. But growing up, you may want to tone that down a little bit and make it a little bit more modern. And those pieces can kind of like fit within, neutral enough to kind of fit within any of those design aesthetics.
Yeah, especially slate. There's really nothing that can go wrong with that. And that just stays on there. But as long as you get a good quality team, I would always recommend with felt that you do not touch that on your own.
Yeah.
Because there's like a whole process to that. And it's kind of its own art to be able to stretch the felt and get it on there properly. But felt is fairly easily able to be changed. It's just hire out professionals. Make sure you don't ruin anything.
Yeah. Can we speak to that a little bit? Because if you're investing in these pieces, you want them to last for a while. We're focusing a little bit here on pool tables, but I think that's okay. But maybe like let's start there and think about like what do you have to do to kind of maintain a pool table, and maybe some general guidance around our indoor recreation platforms in general. How would you say, from a maintenance perspective, we can keep them in good working order?
Yeah, just depend on your environment. And obviously, like, like I said, how I would like to have drinks, snacks, everything else around there. Just don't spill on there. That always helps out, number one. But then beyond that, there's always a lot of preventive pieces out there, such as pool table covers. And we have that for other items too. But then even when you look at pool table, you could go more of a functional route. We actually have dining top tables for those.
Yeah.
To where we could just put a top on that pool table, and now you have a place to dine, in your basement, fan cave area, wherever you have it.
Yeah.
And then, from there, it's just kind of cleaning things up as time goes on, whether, again, for pool tables specifically, we have the felt brushes, but then on top of that, you always have the handheld vacuum cleaners, lint rollers, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of good on all machines, just kind of dust them off. Even use like the air purifiers to keep the area a little bit cleaner. And then sometimes if you need dehumidifiers to keep the area a little bit more dry so that you don't get too much humidity up in there. But other than that, yeah, it's just kind of regular things that's kind of good for all areas though.
Yeah, that makes sense. And when you were talking about having a cover over your pool table to transition it to dining space, that got me thinking about some of what I was seeing and some of the trends too, is like not some people are using these spaces a little bit more multifunctional. We've talked about that in general, but being able to convert a table to dining, maybe even to do ping pong or table tennis over it.
Oh yeah,
And I
those
know
are
that,
very popular too.
yeah, and I know that like some game rooms have like tables that can like change in to other things. Like,
Yeah.
do you like those, or would you recommend those? Who would you recommend those to if there was interest?
Oh yeah, I really do like those. It's mainly for me personally, just making sure you go with quality.
Right.
Growing up, I had one. It was decent enough.
Mhm.
However, like one of the ones we have here with one of our vendors, I have realized like that's really nice, just the way it fits on there perfectly and how it's got padding underneath,
Yeah.
and it will not damage your pool table at all.
Yeah.
That's one we had dealt with at our house, is it just kept scratching it as
Gotcha.
we would take off the ping pong top and then put it back on. We had noticed over time it just left a bunch of scratches and gouges. And then
Gotcha.
with some of the ones that I know we offer here at NFM, I've been very impressed just with the way they sit on top. And it just, yeah, and it's 100% functional too, even with that padding. Like it doesn't make it unlevel or anything.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's good to know. I think that's helpful for a lot of people too. Okay. I'd love for you to share any maybe unique or quirky additions to your game room that might surprise people. I feel like you've kind of listed maybe a few that people haven't thought about, but let's expand a little bit on like the different options that we've already kind of covered.
Yeah, I mean, there's just kind of anything to really express yourself. Like, I know me personally, I would probably almost have some older memorabilia or stuff related to like motorcycles because that's a passion of mine,
Yeah, cool.
or even maybe music or comedians because I do enjoy good old school comedy. But as far as like a personal experience that I've seen, I had a friend that, yeah, at their house, they had a fully Bears themed, and they had
Cool.
quite a bit of jerseys that they have that are signed. They had those hanging up, and then they redid their basement. They did wood paneling on all the walls. They did the metal ceilings. So then they had the
Oh,
can
neat.
lights coming out of there. So it just gave it a complete different feel for it, but it really kind of just felt like a cozy cabin home down
Yeah.
there. And then they had like their skee ball machine, like, and then right next to it, they had all their Bears gear and like hats and just different memorabilia they had, and sports cards that they even made their own displays for.
Yeah, love that. That's awesome. Okay, I think we're getting close to the questions that I had for you, but I'd like to ask a final one here to kind of wind down for the episode today. Honestly, I do think that game rooms or areas in your home are totally worth the investment. I mean, I'm getting that vibe just talking to you. I've got a table tennis table in my basement that I've just been beating the heck out of the last couple of weeks. I'm excited for it. And I think, like you said before, it's an opportunity to show off you or your family's personality, but also, like, practically speaking, we all need just a little bit more fun in our lives. I think, bringing that back. Like you said, laughter is the best medicine. But Will, my final question for you is, how do you prioritize fun at home for yourself? Any maybe last minute suggestions for our podcast listeners?
Yeah, just kind of planning out obviously what fun you're going to want. So which, pieces will be best in your house. But then beyond that, it's just kind of making sure that you have that scheduled in, or know like, all right, there's going to be days that we're just going to kind of need to take a break from a regular daily life. We're going to take a break from working and then instantly go into this, to that, to this, and just know like, all right, this afternoon or this evening or even on the weekends, like that's when we're going to need to take time with your family just to, have a good time and enjoy.
Okay, wise words. Thanks, Will, for being our indoor recreation expert for the day. I also want to thank Becca and, of course, our producer, Scott Licati. And finally, thank you, listeners. Remember, ratings help our show, and we would love your thoughts and comments, your likes, your subscribes. You can do that at all the places where you listen to podcasts. Then visit nfm.com, where you can shop 24/7 for everything indoor recreation and a whole lot more. Thanks again. And remember, home is what you make it.
Thanks for joining us today for I Am Home with Tyler Weisskopf, Hillary Waltemath, and Becca Sudbeck. No one knows home quite like NFM. So if you'd like more information on home design at NFM, please check out nfm.com and leave us a review on the podcast platform of your choice.